Well, hello there, y'all. It's me, Sultan Ali, also known as Brennan White. You probably heard about me if you're watching this video. I have made so much videos and have posted so much about my people, the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community. And I have got a bunch of my people to post videos of me, repost my videos, re-upload some of my content that gets deleted, and help spread and share these videos about me. So, I have got to the point where if I Google Qarsherskiyan, I don't have to scroll very far to find photos or videos of me on Google, because so much content about me is available, covering the community. I know a lot about the community. I have done research and talked to many people from all different parts of the USA and Canada. I have studied a whole lot, and I have shared what I learned with the internet. And I'm one of only a couple people, only a few dozen folks, just a handful of people who are doing that. So it happens that when you Google Qarsherskiyan, you find some photos and videos of me. And often I have said, and others have said about me, that I am a youth leader, and not the only one. There are many youth leaders. This is what you call young people in our community who know a lot about the history and our identity, who use social media to try to be like an influencer of sorts. We are not leaders of our community. We are not in charge of anyone. No one submits to our authority. We are not scholars who have been to college, but we are part of the process of information dissemination. We young people on the internet using social media are the ones who have been able to connect with each other over the internet and help the self-identification with the term Qarsherskiyan. From 2019 to 2020, there was a boost. It went from just a few people self-identifying as Qarsherskiyan to today, now, in 2026, about 3,000, give or take. That's a lot of people. 3,000 people now identify as Qarsherskiyan. Half of them are older folks who don't really use social media a lot, or they're only really on Facebook. And not everyone really talks about their heritage all the time and posts about their ethnicity daily and dumps all their information and family recipes and traditions. So really, it's just a handful of young folks who come up. When you are doing research on the Qarsherskiyan community online, I'd say 50 to 500 people. Depending on how deep you dive, you usually find the 50 to 500 people are responsible for over 70% of the information about the Qarsherskiyan community online. And we have worked tirelessly for the last month to keep out haters and internet trolls and racists and all these people saying, you're a product of race mixing and that's bad, and harassing us, saying this stuff to us. We've worked tirelessly. People take clips of me and other youth leaders out of context to make us look bad. Like a couple seconds ago, how I just told you racist people will tell me that I'm a product of race mixing, whatever that means. Born in 2005, the term Qarsherskiyan was coined in 1991. I learned it from elders in the community. And in light of a lot of hatred that's been spreading, and misinformation, harassment, death threats, I just wanted to come out and talk to y'all about everything I know, just to set the record straight and record clear. There's some people who keep messaging me saying, is it true that you're a white person who hates black people and you're pretending to be mixed to make mixed race and black people look bad? No, I'm mixed race. I'm just light skinned. A lot of people look at me and they can tell I'm mixed race and they hate on me for that. Do I look like I am just a white person? I am mixed race. It's clear. You can tell by looking at me. Obviously, you can't always tell by looking at someone, but people look at me and they can tell. If that wasn't the case, people wouldn't drive by and yell the N-word at me like they love to do. They drive by, they yell the N-word at me because they can tell I'm mixed race by looking at me. They know I got black in me. People make fun of my eyes. They think I'm Asian and stuff because I have native ancestry. So my eyes aren't like always as big as white folks. I can open them wide if I raise my eyebrows really high. People make fun of my narrow eyes and stuff, my curly hair. They make fun of me for being mixed all the time. People make fun of me also because of my religious belief as a Muslim. Another misconception is that the Qarsherskiyan community are a religious organization or some kind of Muslim community. That's not true. Christianity is the largest religious following in our community. Islam is the second largest, and there are many different faiths followed by different people in our community. It's not a religious community. It's not a religious belief. It has nothing to do with religion. Being Qarsherskiyan has nothing to do with what you believe. There's people saying that there is a Qarsherskiyan cult. There is no Qarsherskiyan cult. It has nothing to do with religious beliefs. Anyone can choose if they want to identify as Qarsherskiyan or not. It's not something that you aren't allowed to walk away from. It's not something forced onto you. It doesn't cost money. You don't have to give up any aspect of your life. You know, it doesn't make sense, all right? That's like saying there's a Caucasian cult. There's all these people calling themselves white. It's a cult. There's all these people who are calling themselves Latinos. It's a cult. It's like saying that. It doesn't make sense. It's not about what someone's religious beliefs are. It's an ethnic identity. And that's just the way it is. So, without further ado, I'm going to share a summarized version of my full story about my experience and my life in the Qarsherskiyan community, my involvement in the community, how I got to where I am today, and pretty much all I know about the Qarsherskiyan community. So, for those of you who are interested, this is the video for you. Right now I'm by a really sketchy road crossing where people seem to speed up when they notice me trying to cross. Okay, I got across, thankfully. Don't worry, that road's behind me. So now that I'm done with that and I can focus more, hopefully, God willing, let me tell y'all my story. Alright, so back in 2015, I was in a city called London, Ohio, USA. And I had some budgerigars or parakeets. I had just moved back to London, Ohio from living in Plain City, Ohio. And I had two pet parakeets, Polly and Tweety. Tweety was an all-white parakeet, I think albino. And Polly was one of the ones with blue chest feathers and black and white and gray bars, striped wing feathers. And Tweety died. So Polly became really depressed to lose his cage mate. And so Polly stopped chirping, stopped being talkative. The bird was depressed and really sad after Tweety died. My room was quiet, didn't chirp much. Polly was really sad and lonely. Even though I tried to talk to him and spend time with my bird, it wanted another feathered friend. So my grandma, who also lived in London, Ohio then, got me a new parakeet that was green and yellow and black named Disco. Shortly after that, I made my first YouTube channel. And this channel is on YouTube. And it was called Bob Ava. And I made a bunch of videos on that channel. And keep in mind, I was a little kid, so I posted some stuff that little kids post that looking back, it's all silly now and it's really embarrassing and cringe. I posted a video with talking like a kid, you know, in a baby voice. Because growing up, my adopted family always talked to me in a baby voice when I was a little kid learning how to talk. So I just learned to talk that way because that's how they talk to me. So it wasn't until I was older that my English improved and I talked like a normal person. So I have like these old videos of me when I was like, well, this was in 2017. No, it was like in 2016. And so at that point, I was still like talking like, hello guys, I have little birds. And it's kind of embarrassing. I made some weird video titles. One of them was called Ass There's a Snake in My Dick. I don't know why. It's from Buzz Lightyear and Woody from Toy Story movie, where they say, there's a snake in my boot. My siblings had a weird sense of humor that was kind of naughty. They always would say that there's snakes in their D words and just crazy stuff little kids say, because they thought, haha, I'm so funny, I just said a cuss word, haha. You know, they're just immature, and I was too, because we was kids. But one of my relatives noticed that I made these YouTube videos, and some people were re-uploading my videos. So if one of my channels, I lost a login password and couldn't get into it, I could just, even if I forgot the name of the channel and couldn't find it, someone else gave me another one. But someone saw one of my old videos, which I think it's not on Bob Ava, but one of my relatives re-uploaded it. And in that video, I'm claiming to be Hawaiian, actually. I was saying like, hey guys, I'm Brennan the Hawaiian. I got a pineapple here. And I was showing off my pineapple plant. Now, I'm not in Hawaii, and I'm not Kanaka Maoli. My birth mom lived in Hawaii for a short period of time. I don't know if that was before or after I was born. Ethnically, I'm not Hawaiian, and I haven't spent much time of my life on the islands of Hawaii. Why was I claiming in the video that I was Hawaiian and showing off a pineapple plant? Is because one of my older siblings, I won't name her, she had told me when I asked what my ancestry was that I was mixed race, which I always knew. And I said, yeah, but mixed with what? Black, white, Native American, and what else? And now I had never taken a DNA test, and she was from my adopted family. I was adopted since I was 3, but my adopted dad is biologically related to me. He'd be like my cousin. So, there's a troll in the comments right now saying that I have schizophrenia and calling me a troll. Let's time this user out. Okay, there we go. So, after that, what happened was this adopted sibling of mine who is older than me, she didn't know what my DNA actually was. But when I asked her what was my ethnicity and ancestry, she told me a bunch of things. She had claimed that I was Italian. She had claimed I was Cherokee, which I don't believe. I do have indigenous American ancestry. I don't think I have any from the Cherokee tribes. And I don't claim to be Cherokee. But for some reason, she just started making stuff up. She told me I was Italian and Cherokee and stuff, and that I was Hawaiian. Now, what's curious is when I take DNA tests, I have trace amounts of Pacific Islander ancestry. We're talking around 1% or like a fraction of a percent, like a 0.9 or 0.7, depending on the tests I take. All the different tests show it. I'm certain that it's not just noise and it's there. I have like trace amounts of ancestry that's being labeled as Oceanian. Not specifically Micronesian or Polynesian. They all just tell me Oceanian. It's so vague and it's so distant. And I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it is just noise, but it's something there. I don't know what it is. Like, even if it is noise, what DNA do I have that got labeled as Oceanian? If it isn't that, then what is it? Why did it think that? All the tests are all saying it. You know, it's not just one test. It's not a one-off. They're all consistently giving me right around 0.5% to 1% Oceanian. And I don't know where that comes from, because how many generations ago did someone with Oceanian ancestry get here to the USA and marry into my ancestral family lines? I don't know where it comes from. That's confusing. And it could be just noise, because it is at most about 1%, depending on which test I'm reading. So I always was curious about that. But my sister had told me, my adopted sister told me, that I was Italian and a bunch of other stuff that I don't believe I have ancestry from, including Hawaiian. And so I always felt a longing of a sense of identity. Growing up in London, Ohio, I was often too pale for some of the black kids there to accept me as being black. And I was often too obviously mixed. You can tell by looking at me, like I mentioned earlier, that the white folks wouldn't accept me as white. And I was raised in a mixed house. Now, I may have been adopted, but my adopted dad is my biological cousin. And he had a son with my adopted mom. So I had an adopted brother who was also like a mixed, and who also had black features, just like my adopted dad. And so then there's me, and I obviously got like what they call the white low nose. Some folks in London, Ohio will know what that is, and the curly hair and stuff. So everyone in the whole town knows I'm mixed because they can look at me and tell I don't look like how white people in London, Ohio of like German ancestry look like, or wherever their ancestors came from, all the white folks in London, Ohio. So when people told me I was Hawaiian, this was around 2016 when I started making a YouTube channel and saying that and showcasing my pineapple plant. And I don't remember when the movie Moana came out, but they had me watching that and stuff. And I just believed what they told me, because they told me I was part Hawaiian. I believed that I was part Hawaiian, and I started researching and trying to reconnect with like Kanaka Maoli communities. But later I found out that I was not Hawaiian, and I found out I was descended from a mixed race community that was in the town that I grew up in, where I was born most likely, London, Ohio, USA. And so that is the county seat of Madison County. If you're watching this video, you're most likely already know about the town and what I'm going to tell y'all. But there's some folks in London, they used to call London Yellowville. The black American community in that part of Ohio, they used to call London Yellowville because of all the mixed race folks there. Mixed race folks were called yellowbones sometimes back then in black American English. They said red bones and yellow bones. That's what they would say. And London, Ohio was called Yellowville. There were like nicknames for all the towns in that area. I don't know what they are, and I don't know how widespread the usage of the names were. My sister, the same one who told me that I had Italian and Hawaiian, I don't know where she got that information. I don't know if she just made it up or there was a misunderstanding or what. But that sister of mine, she had told me that Marysville, Ohio is called Whiteyville. And guess what? Marysville, Ohio is, or at least at that time I know, was a majority white folks living there. And she just thought Marysville, Ohio was the whitest place she knew of. She always called it Whiteyville. It wasn't like Columbus. There weren't many black folks there. At least not then. It's been years. I don't know what it's like now. So, yeah, there was these folks in London, Ohio. There's this one family. They're one of the most well-known Qarsherskiyan families, probably. They all have the last name Napper. And these folks would be described as black by the average American, if you looked at them. But they were different from most black Americans. For one, most of them have like gray, blue, and green eyes and stuff. And many of them have like they're basically light-skinned black folks, just like me, they're light-skinned. But it depends. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. Some can pass as white, and some even think they are white somehow. Only a few nowadays, really. But, yeah. So the Qarsherskiyan community is pretty fractured, as you can tell by what I just said. There's some people who identify as black, some identify as white, but the reality is the people who identify as white are cousins, first cousins, to people who identify as black. And they're identifying based on how you look. If you got curly hair or tan skin, it doesn't matter how pale you are, usually you get called black. If you got like blonde hair, blue eyes, and a pointed nose, they'll just say that you're white. Obviously, that's a pretty close-minded understanding of race and ethnicity. But hey, I'm not the one who came up with it. That's just what people would be like saying back then. I don't know about now, but that's how it was back then in London, Ohio, guys. So the Qarsherskiyan community was pretty divided. There was just a handful of people trying to reunite the community. Most of them were older folks. And a lot of those elders who were self-identifying as Qarsherskiyan passed away from things like COVID and stuff. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of them in the last few years. Even my adopted dad, Sherman Cedric White, passed away on August 20th, 2016 from heart-related issues. May he rest in peace. And he's well known in the Qarsherskiyan community in Madison County. And we all know that he invented sopapilla. I know you're thinking, no, he didn't. Sopapilla is like Mexican food. Well, he invented something he calls a sopapilla, but it's very different. It's really his own thing. It should have another name because it's so different from any other kind of thing that they call sopapilla. I remember him making it when I was a little kid. He would take dough and put it on like a cutting board or something, and he'd roll it with stuff in it. He'd put like beef, chopped up onions, tomatoes, lettuce, all different kinds of stuff in there, cheese. And we'd always have sour cream on it and stuff too. What he did is when he put the ingredients in, he rolled it up so it looked like a burrito shape. You know? Kind of like a oval or cylindrical. And then he put it in a deep fryer and he fried it in some kind of oil. And he had like a basket with a handle attached, you know, and he dipped it in boiling hot oil. And that's how he fried it. I don't know what kind of oil he used. And then when it came out, he'd put it on a plate. Sometimes he'd have it cut up into pieces. Sometimes he'd have it whole. But then he'd start putting more stuff on top of it. Sometimes it would be like almost or completely covered in more meat and sour cream and lettuce and stuff on top. Or like other stuff we'd put on it. And then we would just eat it with a fork like that. It was very different from the little fried things that I see when I Google sopapilla. I see all these videos of people in like Mexico and I think even the Philippines and over Latin America making different kinds of sopapillas. They're always these little fried things, maybe about the size of like the fried raviolis you get at Olive Garden, if I remember correctly what I seen when I looked it up. Those aren't anything like what he made. So in London, Ohio, Sherman Cedric White, my adopted dad and my biological cousin, he's one of the most well-known people in the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community from Madison County, Ohio, in that area. And he's kind of known for like inventing the sopapilla, like any of our close relatives who ever came over. What the frick? I'm like literally 15 feet from the road. Why these people honk at me? Sometimes I don't know if people are just like messing with me and think to say hi. I like seeing my friends and stuff, but if you're too close and you honk to me, it hurts my ears because I'm kind of sensitive to loud sounds. But anyways, so yeah, that's growing up with my adopted dad, Sherman Cedric White. He didn't want to be called African American. He hated that term. I didn't hear him a whole lot of times saying he was black. Sometimes he did. Usually, we would go to Mexican restaurants like Los Mariachis in London, Ohio, near Kinney Boulevard and the intersection of Kinney and the main road that kind of ran into town back then before it got bigger and the population grew much. But when we go to Los Mariachis, we'd sit down and we'd be eating there. These guys would start talking to him in Spanish because, you know, he's mixed. He's Qarsherskiyan, right? He's a light-skinned black. So these guys think he's like Hispanic or something. They think he's like from Colombia or Mexico. And so they'd start talking to him in Spanish and he'd be like, I don't speak Spanish. And then there'd be this thing where these people are shocked because he doesn't speak Spanish. And so they want an explanation of why he doesn't speak Spanish if they think he's Hispanic. They know, even though they're wrong, they know he's Hispanic because of how he looks. And so they would ask him and stuff. And he'd always say that he was an Indian, not from India, but meaning a Native American, right? But he's not claiming indigenous identity. It's a line. It's like kind of like a joke, I guess he tells, and it goes like this. He claims to be from a native tribe. They ask him which tribe. And he says, from the Monig tribe. And they say, Monig? I never heard of that. And then he says that it stands for more Negro than Indian. That's what he said. I'm just quoting him. Remember that looks can be deceiving, okay? I grew up black. I'm just light skinned. I'm not saying that word because I want to upset people. I'm not saying it to people. I'm just quoting my adopted dad, okay? But, yeah, that's what he would say. And also, I had heard my adopted mom talking on the phone. This is kind of personal. I'm not going to name her and stuff. She loved him. They were married for decades before he passed away. My adopted mom had once said something about how he used to say he was tricolor, you know. He would talk about how he's like the mix of black, white, and Native American, you know. It would be something like he'd point to one area and he would say he's like red. He'd point to the areas where he didn't get tanned and stuff. No, wait, he like pointed to his face, I guess, and his hair or something like that, and he said it was black. Then he pointed to like where he's usually wearing a shirt covering it, like on his shoulder, and he'd say he's white there. He'd say he's like red somewhere, white wherever he didn't get tan, and then he'd say he's black down there. If you know what that means, you know what that means. If you don't, you don't. He was a great man. He had a sense of humor when talking to his wife. He was a very loving, amazing man. And I don't want no one to say nothing bad about him or put any words in his mouth. You know, the other day, a bunch of people messaged me again, claiming I made up the term Qarsherskiyan in 2024, even though it existed since 1991. There's videos and posts online from like way before then using the term Qarsherskiyan, even in videos of people saying it that were clearly uploaded to YouTube back in like 2021 and stuff. But anyway, they are saying that I made up the term and stuff. But also, they keep saying that they talked to my dad Sherman the other day, and that he says I'm making it up. He passed away August 20th, 2016. What do they mean they talked to him the other day? They didn't. There's all kinds of people slandering me and trying to claim that I'm making this stuff up. And I'm not even the only person posting online about our community in the movement to try to get people to reconnect and start identifying as Qarsherskiyan and stuff, and, you know, heal the scars of colorism that have divided it. I don't think so. Up to that was a great man. But Brennan White, future youth leader or something like that. But everyone always knew I'll be able to research this. We hope our descendants will be able to watch this and see what our life was like. And historians one day will take note about our lives now. That's kind of a big part of our goal. Just documentation, getting recognition from the public, the world, and just being a human being, and it's human nature. You want to belong somewhere, and not fitting in as a mixed race person who doesn't quite pass as white or black. You know, growing up, they was like light-skinned black folk or mixed race folks, you know? And no one knew if they were white or black or what they were. They didn't think they were white or black then than it is now. These kids will get harassed, you know? And so they didn't know what to say. You know, they weren't really Roma. They weren't really Mexican. They weren't from Mexico. So these people would just start saying they're Hawaiian because they were too dark to pass as white. And they didn't look dark enough to be black. And they would get racial discrimination if they identified as Hawaiian. That's just like there's some white folks around that time who didn't really have a problem with Hawaiians or see them as a threat. In Ohio, there aren't many Hawaiians and stuff. You know, some racist white supremacists feared a black uprising because that would be a big problem. But no one was worried about the handful of Hawaiians that might have lived in Ohio back then. If someone identified as Hawaiian, then they wouldn't experience racism. And there's actually one YouTube video I found. If you Google Qarsherskiyan Hawaiian, some Melanesian YouTuber made a video that's talking in the title and mentions Melanesians and Qarsherskiyans trying to pass as Hawaiian, which is something that is a very vague, very poorly touched upon topic. I don't think many people seem to know about it all. Very poorly documented. But there's a video of some Melanesian guy talking about how when he grew up, people asked him all those questions, and he just told them he was Hawaiian and stuff, and they would just call him Hawaiian. And that would explain to these people who had such a narrow view and strict belief that someone could only be one race. That explained to them his kind of in-between looks and skin tone and stuff. and they wouldn't think he was like from Mexico or that he was a Roma, and they wouldn't discriminate against him and call him Jip in other terms. So I thought that was interesting, because that's what happened to me in the modern time growing up. People told me I was Hawaiian, and I thought I was part Hawaiian. I tried reconnecting and identifying with that, because I didn't even know who I was as someone who wasn't quite white and white black. I was in between the lines, and I needed to find out who was my people, you know. And that kind of thing doesn't just happen to me. That's part of why I believe that we need to do what the elders have been trying to do since 1991 and reconnect this community. So in 1991, it's told to me that I guess a bunch of people got together and came up with this term Qarsherskiyan. There's a whole story about where that comes from and why and how that happened. The meeting took place somewhere around Madison County, Ohio, probably in London, Ohio, at some people's home. And I think some people told some versions of the story. Allegedly, there might have been multiple meetings happening in 1991 in different parts of the USA, like down in Virginia too and stuff. But at least one meeting took place, and it was in Madison County, Ohio, probably in London. And they say that the reason we don't know this stuff is because it's almost like when someone gets put into Secret Service. Because what happened was, these Qarsherskiyan folks, during the meeting, when they came up with the term Qarsherskiyan and stuff, it was a meeting between a bunch of mixed-race families who were saying basically, look, some of our folks are identifying as white, some of our folks are identifying as black, but we're black and white at the same time, and many of us got other things in our blood too. And some of the folks who are passing as white are starting to hate on their own first cousins just for being darker than them. And they're starting to hate. So some of the white passing Qarsherskiyans, most of them just didn't want racism, or were trying to survive, or were just confused in a time when people had a narrow view of acceptable racial identification. So a lot of the white passing Qarsherskiyans didn't mean harm. They was just pale, and so they were expected to be white. And if they didn't say they were white, people would just make fun of them, and they'd get the discrimination for not being white or fully white. But there were a handful of these white Qarsherskiyans who really took in white identity and absorbed it and made it for them, where they basically became white supremacists. And they were hating on their own first cousins who were considered black. So these white Qarsherskiyans and these black Qarsherskiyans started beefing. They was fighting with each other, and there was prevalent racism in London, Ohio. It was pretty bad back then. My biological grandma, they had chanted on the school bus. When she was in middle school or high school, they chanted, and they were saying, Jill, Jill, spirit of the lovers. When I said I mean the N-word that ends in an R. They were calling her spirit of the N-word lovers. Not They weren't calling her nigga. They were calling her nigga with an on the end. They were being racist. They were white people. They were calling her spirit of the N-word lover, because she was dating my biological grandpa. There are way too many people in this area where I'm at now from the Qarsherskiyan community who know me and like all the videos I've been posting. And I'm gonna keep it up, y'all. But, so what I'll tell y'all now is, that's how bad racism was back then. And our community was being torn apart by it. Nowadays, it's kind of normal. Back then in London, Ohio, there wasn't interracial couples. And mixed people had to choose based on what they looked more like, if they was white or black. And for them to pass as white, they had to be like 80% white or more usually. It was based on if they had any African features. Even light-skinned folks like me would often be considered black. It really depends on a lot of different these families to prevent their culture and identity from being destroyed by assimilation into a racially binary black and white America. That's the whole mouthful, I know. That's what everyone says is the reason they did that in the meeting, basically. That was the whole point. Men, these broken families, spit at me and curse me and say, "Stop looking into my family tree. You're looking for something you won't find." I was like, I already found it. It's the Ohio. But also in coastal Virginia, there were certain families in coastal Virginia and North Carolina and the Hampton Roads area who also started identifying as Qarsherskiyan way back then. And there were other places too. But it took until pretty much modern times, until 2019 to 2020, for the term to really catch on. So basically what happened was around maybe 2018, but especially by 2019, maybe by like the end of 2019, early 2020, that's when many young people from the Qarsherskiyan community, including me and a few dozen other people, got together and came up with a several-year plan. Okay, and it would be like a decade or half a decade long plan. It lasted up until probably mid-2024. And the plan was simple. We have a community here called Qarsherskiyan. That's the name that came up with. And it describes all these mixed families. But the problem is a bunch of these people still are trying to pass as being just black or just white and stuff. And they're still divided on, who they are. A lot of people just don't know who they are. The term hasn't really catched on by that point. So we were like, okay, we need to come up with a plan or some kind of idea on how we can get the term Qarsherskiyan to catch on and how we can help all these people reconnect with the community. And we knew there'd be a few of the white-passing Qarsherskiyans who would never accept what their true heritage was and would always be full of hate. But we thought by now, in the 2020s, there's a lot of people, probably most, if not at least like half of people, probably more than that, a lot of people who would be interested. All we had to do was use the internet to contact and find these people. We could build family trees and do genealogy and find any living descendants of all the different Qarsherskiyan families and find these living descendants and basically tell them everything and see if they were wanting to accept adopting the term Qarsherskiyan or not. And well, it worked. A bunch of people did, because it was for a noble cause of preserving our mixed identities and mixed heritage. We knew that we weren't just white, we weren't just black, we definitely weren't just Native American, and we knew that we weren't just any of the other things, that different families in our community might have all these different ancestries and different amounts. We knew we had to do something, and this was the way. It had been set forth in 1991, and it picked up motion by 2020. That's when me and a few dozen other people took to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we started uploading a bunch of videos. One of the things we did for our community was storytelling. Basically, there were some people who had issues, Like there were some people who were asking, am I too black to be Qarsherskiyan? Like, what do you mean? You're part of the Qarsherskiyan community. And you want to be part of the community. Do you want to identify with us? They were like, yes, of course, And we have these cultural traditions. We're family. And I was like, well, what do you mean too black to be Qarsherskiyan? They'd be like, oh, because I look like this. And it's like, it's not about what you look like. That's the whole point. We are all these families are families, and they're related. Some of the members are paler, some of them are darker, but they're all part of the same community, the same family, and the same blood. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter what you look like. We had all these questions, and there was a bit of confusion at first as new people were reconnecting, and they were unfamiliar with the principles that we tried to uphold and the values that we had in our community. And we were just reconnecting with them. We interviewed people about the unique traditions they had and stuff, and asked them to share it online and join us in our mission to document the culture, document the traditions, find other descendants, and help them reconnect. And we did this all day, every day for years. Most of us were young adults and teenagers. People aged like between 14 and 29. There was a lot of us who didn't have jobs yet, who were in like high school or college. So we had a lot of free time. we weren't really stuck in 9-to-5s or anything yet, like many of us are now. Many of those first youth leader pioneers recording our culture on the internet are now. And so we decided to, those of us who cared enough, we just dedicated time. I was able to connect with him. I would just happen to arrive at a perfect time to help these people reconnect and start putting out videos. Right? So, whenever one region on the map of the Mezoravan becomes a hotspot where there's a bunch of young Qarsherskiyan people in that area uploading videos, I happen to arrive there in a good time and show these people how to get more views on their videos, teach them how to hold a camera steady. They teach me things that I didn't know. Not always. I had a few big misses. One thing is, I didn't really get to Bedford, Pennsylvania. One time, we drove to the outskirts of that town, and we picked up my brother, who was meeting us halfway when driving from Ohio to Virginia, and we were gonna help him get the rest of the way back to Virginia. We just happened to stop close to Bedford, Pennsylvania. That's as close as I got. But, the Qarsherskiyan community in Bedford, Pennsylvania posted some good stuff. And they sent the main youth leaders who are uploading and had big YouTube channels with like 100 or 50 or 200 subs. They sent them videos of like the mountains and stuff there. Especially like a couple years ago, some of them sent a bunch of videos of this mountain that had a bunch of fire towers on it and stuff. So, we was working pretty hard trying to document the places we were, the things we eat, the traditions we had, and just every little aspect of our lives. A lot of the videos seem like weird things, like someone eating chips for breakfast, but that's what we kind of were telling each other to do. Upload everything so people in the future knows what like life is like now. You know, maybe in the future people won't have Doritos and they won't even know what Doritos are. So if you eat Doritos, make a video about you being a Qarsherskiyan person eating Doritos or something. You know, and use the codes so we can find each other, establish a box and open it up so we can message each other in private forums and share knowledge and ideas and techniques to get more views and hold cameras steady and stuff, and what to film and what not to film, what to share and what might not be safe to share because it might dox you or show your face. Only a few of us want to show faces. Some of the younger folks, we really encourage them not to do that. But, yeah. So, we was doing pretty well. Citramello Live was in full swing, and we all had boxes opened up. And we was all putting boxes in our YouTube channel descriptions. And we all liked to tell stories to each other that had some kind of a moral or a lesson or a cautionary tale to teach each other a lesson. Hi! Hi! Hello, German Shepherds. Hello, German Shepherds. I'm making a video. So, we wanted to have like moral stories. Really? So, we wanted to have like stories to come with like a moral lesson or something you can take from them. A lesson or some kind of moral to the story, or it teaches you something new about life or something, you know what I mean? But there was an issue when we started making stories and stuff and sharing them, because people said this: the Qarsherskiyan community relies heavily on oral history because the name for our community is a new term. So when you research our history, you can't just look for Qarsherskiyan written in historical documents. Because back then, we was labeled as like a bunch of different terms. Some of them are slurs. Some of them are really broad and not just unique to us, like free people of color, for example. There wasn't really a single term we was all known as back then, and it's hard to research our history. So we've relied a lot on the oral history that's been passed down over generations, and all the traditions and the recipes, and just doing research to find out where these things might come from. Like, oh yeah, you cook your rice this way? Well, so does this tribe in the Senegambia region. And you also make this type of amulet, just like they do. And you do this tradition called ring shout, just like this group of people over here in Africa has this tradition. It's so similar. It's likely, we're not saying guaranteed, but it's likely you descended from these people. Your DNA test shows matches with them? Interesting. You know, that's kind of how we figured out a lot of this stuff. And the issue is, when you rely on oral history, anyone who wants to critique your history or question it, they can actually jeopardize the way your community is perceived and the legitimacy of your community. So that was a big problem, and a bunch of our folks started saying, do not make up stories about the Qarsherskiyan community that did not actually happen. And if you do, do not post them online, especially not in any public forum, because that is jeopardizing our credibility as the same people who are trying to document our actual history. Even changing the names of people to keep them anonymous, if you do that, mention that you did that. Do not post anything that is unlikely to be true, and absolutely none of this storytelling. So we decided, look, these stories are really important. The real stories are the most important, but it's good to have these moral lessons or something. So we created an apparatus to get around that. That was, let's just make fictional countries and fictional cultures based off of our people, and then tell stories about these places that don't exist as clear fictional stories and stuff, basically. And that's how we'll share these stories with moral lessons and values and stuff. These realistic fiction stories based in things that did happen in reality, but they're not like a history that you would take as like some source to study a history. You know what I mean? So the main one was Bahari Terra, and that was an island nation in the Atlantic Ocean, located east of Bermuda, on the mid-Atlantic ridge, kinda. It was pretty much due south of the Avalon Peninsula in Newfoundland, and due east of the island of Bermuda. And the Bahari Terra Islands was said to be a mountainous archipelago with two main islands and many smaller islands. And the mountains are just like the mountains on the big island of Hawaii. They're very tall, and so they have a rain shadow, and that causes a wet side on the windward side and a dry side on the leeward side. And the peaks at around 13,000 feet or 11,000 feet get snow and get really cold, and it's like the climate in Ohio or the northern parts of the Mesoravand like Newfoundland. And down on the coast at sea level, there's coconut trees and stuff, and it's like Florida in the southern Mesoravand. So by making a fictional island nation that had realistic biogeographical terrain based off of the big island of Hawaii, we were able to create a fictional country that realistically had the capacity to hold the wide range of climates found in the Mesoravand in order to use it to tell fictional stories based in reality without telling them about our community, but about fictional communities, the Bahari Terrans. And then these Bahari Terrans were groups based off of the reality of the Qarsherskiyan people. So like there was they had like Creole languages. There were different ethnic groups of Bahari Terra, just like there's different subgroups of the Qarsherskiyan community that had different origins that were parallel to each other, and there was a bit of interconnectedness. Some of them had like South Asian ancestry. There were people of many different faiths: Christian, Muslim, Jews, Sikhs. Sound familiar? Basically, the whole idea of Bahari Terra was a fictional island nation, but we wanted it to be as realistic as possible and use it for telling fictional stories that are based off of our reality. Does that make sense? So, Bahari Terra became well known for this. We churned out a lot of great stories. Most of them are lost media. For those of you who don't spend a lot of time on the internet like some of my folks do, that basically just I'm not saying that as an insult either. Like, we're not terminally online. I walk around 14 miles a day. I might be live streaming on my phone right now, but this whole time, I've traveled several miles. And in this hour-long live stream, it's been an hour so far, I've traveled several miles talking to you guys. So Bahari Tara became really famous and well known for that, for having all these good stories here. Has blooms on it. Maybe my camera can get you to see them. Okay, we got gunshots. That ain't too good. So, what happened? You gotta get good grades, you know, like, and they'll be like, I don't know, man, I don't know. I'm gonna fail, I'm pretty sure if I'm not good to our community, and anywhere a lot of Qarsherskiyan folks of Tidewater, try follow it. It's got orange fruit up in it, and it's big. It's the size of a softball or bigger. About our ethnobotanical practices, our ethnobotany. And it's just open pollinated and growing wild, and little bump at the top. See that? Just like a Qarsherskiyan grapefruit would. Elijah taught me about ethnobotany and the Qarsherskiyan community, modern and older practices. But we'll send you off to Kalmad, the dictator of Bahari Tara. If you get grounded and can't make it to the inner and if like someone was being racist to one of the Muslims in our community, we'd be like, all the racist people. Christianity is the largest religious following, but nearly a third are Muslim and called the Tale of the Green Islands. It's in Arabic though. So it's a khidra. So the story of the khidra, when we were talking about how to use Bahari Tara to tell stories, sure people aren't like stealing or lying or doing bad things that pretty much all people in the world would all agree are all bad things. You know, we had to have some sense of self-worth and dignity and be good people, and we had to have stories of cautionary tales and morals in them. You know what I mean? The legend. So we had Bahari Tara for that. It was based off of these islands. This guy from the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, when it was under Muslim rule, was a Muslim, and there was a Shia Muslim visiting Iberia, maybe, I think, or in Iberia. Were there much Shias in Iberia? Because how in Arabic some people call the Mediterranean Sea the White Sea, and Fussa, which is like the Arabic dialect all the Muslim converts in our community try to learn if they can, especially if they're young and still good at learning new languages when they're young. Like, it's considered to be like probably someone forged it thousands of years ago. But some Shiites, they kept the stories like a folk tale, maybe not even believing it. I think the largest religious group in our community after Christianity. And at some point, somehow, some people from Azerbaijan got in contact with members of the Qarsherskiyan community and either knew how to speak English or were good at using the internet to translate Azeri into English or something. And they contacted Muslim converts from the Qarsherskiyan community out in the Atlantic Ocean, right? So that's the origin of that. Atoll, which was an island in the Pacific Ocean, and it had Cactus Hill was one of the highest peaks. It had like giant sand dunes that stabilized and became solid limestone mountains. And they were like the biggest sand dunes ever. If they existed in real life, they'd probably be the largest sand dunes that were so tall they could get snow or frost on top. Most of the fictional island countries that were invented to tell stories based off of our experiences in the Qarsherskiyan community, most of these island nations, there's dozens of them. Most of them you can't find on the internet, and they either never were put online or they've been wiped from the internet. And they like, even the Internet Archive just doesn't have them. I guess the Internet Archive doesn't have everything that's on the internet. There were some Qarsherskiyan YouTube channels, and so many videos with so much good information. And about a year or two ago, a bunch of them just got deleted, okay? And I'm telling you, we did everything we could. We fought, we raged over it. And we could not get some of these channels put back up online. Some of these people just gave up YouTube because they're like, I worked so hard to get that many subs. I made all those videos and they're all gone. They were so fricked up after that. You gotta follow YouTube TOS, guys. But let me tell you, after that happened, man, we tried looking on. I swear, I don't care if you guys believe me or not, I'm just telling you. Like, I guess the Internet Archive doesn't record every single thing on the internet. Sometimes I've looked for things on the Internet Archive, trace of it, even from multiple different social media platforms and websites. We've seen that happen. We've lost some work in progress. There are a ton of these fictional island nations and stuff that we created to tell stories to Bahari Terra. If you don't want to delete something, you have to change the stuff. They didn't remember their password or their email account. They couldn't get on there and they couldn't remove it. And they were furious. And every couple months, there's still someone from outside the community who stumbled archiving process thing, whatchamacallit. And so, yeah, that's how that all went down, y'all. So, pretty much, that's how Bahari Terra happened. But it wasn't the only one. There was the Lucaya Grande, or it was based on like the Lucayan archipelago. If I remember correctly, it was some islands in the Caribbean. I think somewhere near the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. And just like the real Lucayan archipelago, it was called Lucaya Grande. Unlike the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, it had, ta-da, elevation and terrain, and mountains so tall that despite its warm climate, it had mountains high enough that the peaks of them experienced cold temperatures. There were so many different of these fictional island nation things that were created for. One thing I'll tell you guys is the common thing about them all is that all of them, they're like realistic, and they can have a bunch of different climates and different warm, cold, wet, dry climates and everything in between. And realistically, they could, if they actually existed. And the point of that was to reflect the climate of the Mesorvan. It's like if we had all these different group chats to our different groups that weren't all unified, working on the documentation process of posting our culture and traditions and things about our community and identity online, just for archiving it and documenting it and keeping it there for anyone who wants to learn or for our future generations and all that good stuff, you know? So, when they would be like a Qarsherskiyan person, for example, in Florida, they could be like, oh yeah, I'm in Bahari Terra, in Banda Bahari Terra, the capital city on the south side of the islands. It's low-lying, it's by the coast, and there's a bunch of folks who all used the internet around that time for whatever reason. Mainly the internet was used by young folks. And young folks do what they do online too. They gotta have fun. They can't be like serious and devote their life to being ethnographers for their communities. So we had stuff like that. We had morals and lessons to learn. People still had to go to school and take care of their friends and family and be there for one another and have real lives to live. We couldn't be like terminally online. I don't know if any of us that are. Even while I'm live streaming to you now for over an hour on my phone, this whole time I've been walking several miles. Even though it's cold outside, I like being outside. I don't like being inside. I spend all day every day, unless I like have to be at work or something's going on. If I could do whatever I want, I'd just like sleep outside in a tent on the beach, not even joking. If it's storming, if it's windy as frick, I'll be out in the woods. I'll just have an umbrella and I'll look at every tree and listen for snapping, be ready to move if a branch breaks, so don't hit me. I'm telling you guys, I don't care if you believe me or not, I'm just saying, those who know me in real life can verify. Like, the people I stay with know. Like, this dude literally walks 14 miles a day. He's outside all day. The sun comes up, and he's finished playing Fajr and eating breakfast. He'll go outside with snacks and water bottles and a big backpack. He'll come in when the sun's down. I am not online all the time like people think I am. Okay? A lot of people gotta remember this. There's people who made rumors about me. claiming that I'm in charge of literally like 8,000 internet accounts on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Quora, Pinterest, Tumblr, different sites I never heard of, all over the internet, running like 8,000 different accounts. And I said, you do realize that I am just one person and I spend most time outside in nature, right? And you do realize, like, I have to make money to survive. I gotta work, and I got family and friends. I got people looking after me and people I gotta look after and be there for. I got people who I talk to and I gotta check in with them and make sure they're okay. Because sometimes they go through really bad times, and I don't know if they're still gonna be alive and be alright. I gotta keep checking in and make sure they're doing okay, that they don't take drastic measures, and that they're doing all right in life and enjoying life. And I got to be there for them and help with other people, not just me. Other people help them too. We all look out for one another. That's what we do in the Qarsherskiyan community. That's what we're about. Doesn't matter if you use dark or if you can look at black, if you use light skin, if you use a boy, if you use a girl, Christian, Muslim, Jew. If you're a family, you're a family. I know the Qarsherskiyan Jews have been really divided about anti-Zionist Jews versus Zionist Jews. And it's either saying Israel's the homeland, and that's just foreign politics. These people are still family. When they go to the synagogue, they have to see one another and face each other. When they are at family reunions, they'll see each other. We're all one family. We might not all agree on politics or religion. We might not all even look the same. But we're all a people. We are a nation of many nations, one blended community. And we have our subgroups. You know, there's like, oh, the Qarsherskiyans in this region do this with this plant to make this seasoning. And the ones over here say yins instead of y'all because they live in Pittsburgh, and that's a Pittsburgh thing apparently. But like, whatever, we have our subgroups and regional differences. And there are some groups in our community that aren't related to like the core Tidewater and Ohio corridor, Appalachian Tidewater, Ohio Midwest Great Lakes Qarsherskiyan groups. You know, there's some groups that aren't really related to the main Qarsherskiyan groups, like the Whedon and Hazard families in South Rhode Island. There's a few of their descendants that have took up the identifier Qarsherskiyan as an endonym for themselves, not just because they wanted to, but because they were invited and given the chance to do so, and a few of them wanted to do so, and were part of the community because they qualify. They're descendants of Atlantic Creoles or triracial isolate type families from eastern North America that aren't already part of a named triracial isolate group like the Lembi or Melungeons. So if you fit that description, you can qualify as adopting the term Qarsherskiyan, and your family can join the community. We already have a list of all these different families for researching. We just contact any living descendants we can find when doing genealogy and see if they're interested or not. And some say yes, some just say no, and they all have their reasons, and that's all up to them. And some people say yes once, but over time they just decide, no, we don't really want to. We think we're really our own distinct group, and we think our family will just be its own group, and we're gonna, come up with our own term to call ourselves and go our own way. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, maybe we can all be friends and still talk. And it's like, yeah, sure, man, we're all cool. And then there's some people who initially they say no because they're just kind of like unfamiliar with the term Qarsherskiyan. They never heard it before. It sounds foreign to them. But over time, they get to learn about our community and familiarize themselves with it. And then they realize that it was part of our community all along. And then they change their mind. They're like, yeah, I'm from the Qarsherskiyan community, man. And I want to reconnect with y'all. And I just finally made it down here. I got invited by a bunch of Qarsherskiyan families in the southern Meseravan. They've been uploading videos from down here for maybe 2 or 3 months now, since like maybe November. And they got some secret spots, I won't say where, somewhere in the southern part of the Meseravan. And there's some good beaches and stuff here. They gave me the location, and I'm actually on my way to meet them, but I'm not there yet. But along the way, there are several beaches I'm stopping at. And it's cool to see these beaches in person. They look way bigger than they did on the videos. If you are from this group of people I'm about to meet and you see this, if you know, you know. Thank you so much. This place is beautiful, mashallah. I've been watching him post videos. When I go online and try to find the latest videos coming from the Qarsherskiyan community, some of the videos I've been seeing have been coming from this little area I'm in right now that has some wonderful beaches in it. This is one of the like five or six beaches they've been posting videos of, getting videos from them. I went to another one for a live stream to talk about Kidrelas. That was like maybe a week or two ago. Yeah, about a week or two ago, I think. This is another one. There's like 5 or 6 beaches down this little area. There's several Qarsherskiyan families down here. One of them is related to me, but I don't want to dox them or anything. I've already said a lot. I'll just leave it at that. But I've met a lot of good folks and seen some pretty beaches down here. They look way bigger in person than they do on the screen. I can testify that for you guys to see this. Now, something to kind of keep in mind though, I guess, something y'all should know about the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community is that it didn't end with us going online. Some of us younger Qarsherskiyan folks trying to document and post all the culture and stuff to preserve it. The story continued from there. As you all know from the very beginning of this video, I got a bunch of them to like post videos that I made. I'd post it to like my social media, and then I'd send a video in like DMs in private group chats to several other young Qarsherskiyan folks like me who are active on social media because they're young, and usually it's young people in our community. Old folks ain't really on social media that much in our community. But I'd send the videos out and tell them to repost my videos. Sometimes when I got harassed and I would like delete a channel or something, and then I regret it, I'd lose all the videos. I could find most of them if I did some digging around on like YouTube and stuff. Because some of the other Qarsherskiyan folks on YouTube have re-uploaded, and I got to where I am today because so many videos and photos of me were uploaded, and a lot of content came from me. But I'm not the only one. There are some folks who posted way more stuff than me, but their stuff just didn't get as much attention. It didn't get as much attention, didn't get as much views. And so what happened was they just didn't appear as high in the search results as I did. And they just, for some reason, they just weren't as successful, unfortunately. But I'm very thankful and honored to have the position I had. Even if it comes with anyone who dislikes the Qarsherskiyan community, who wants to troll and messes with us, there's several people that often get targeted over and over, and I'm one of the first people in line to get targeted by them. So, yeah, that's not too fun. I've had more. Those people, I don't know if I got to this area. I think I got sidetracked, but I finished the story still in I guess a beautiful way, kinda. But at the very beginning of this story, I was talking about those videos I made, the first videos I made on YouTube, about my parrot and stuff on that channel called Bob Ava. And there's another video, I don't think it's on the Bob Ava channel, at least not anymore, if it used to be. I think I put on Facebook or something, but someone re-uploaded it to YouTube, and it's still there, at least today. And it's the one I talked about earlier, about me showing a pineapple plant and claiming to be Hawaiian. And people always knew I'd end up being a future youth leader. So the video is titled like Brennan White, Future Youth Leader of the Ethnic Qarsherskiyan Community, or something like that. There's several videos with that in the title, or someone contacted me and told me about the Qarsherskiyan community. It wasn't until around, but I had tried to make other channels that I also lost. And this was around 2019 to 2020 when that and coverage and recognition from, it's like annually, that happens every year in this. But I will say I'm not some official spokesperson for the community, the most famous of the people trying to document our culture so far as of right now. So that's something, I guess. Look guys, I got Qarsherskiyan grapefruit. We talked about this earlier. Qarsherskiyan grapefruit is what you get when you hybridize a citramella with a citrange hybrid. Qarsherskiyan grapefruit. And many states in the American Southeast have established and fruiting stands of Qarsherskiyan grapefruit, thankfully. It's doing really well. We've got it to spread all across the Southeast. We've kept them in areas where they don't get citrus greening disease. I'll tell you, there's a big thing in the Qarsherskiyan community right now. We're probably not the first ones to notice this, but maybe we're the loudest folks saying this. We plant them in wooded areas and the understories of established forest. She sent me a video that was called something like Wild Citrus Growing in the Woods in Florida on YouTube. It had several thousand views and it had been uploaded like maybe 4 or 6 years ago or something like that. And this guy outside Brooksville, Florida, walks in the woods off this. But the video is only like, I think it was under 20 minutes long probably. He wanted to get out of there because he was getting ticks. If you can find that video, mention the title in the description if you think you found the video. All the things I just mentioned about the video, that should help you identify it. There's only one video like it about getting citrus greening disease and multiplying the woods and bear a ton of fruit. So yeah, and anyone who wishes has permission, because I have Asperger's and I'm like Elon Musk, except instead of focusing on like cars and Tesla and politics and like a tech, I'm just focused on like a Qarsherskiyan youth leader. And I'm not trying to brag, that's nothing special. There's others who are interested. So, but that's still a good number of people. To be called that. Some of them was saying they were Portuguese, black. Someone's gonna come up to you and be like, oh, yo, and they're gonna tell you how they're a Melangen, who allegedly be Melangen in front of the Melangen community, who are posting DNA tests they claim are theirs that show 100% European. Generally speaking, Melangen DNA is a mix of black and white, often with other stuff in there like native and Romani. Sound familiar? It matches what we have in the Qarsherskiyan community. But it really depends. That's just like the Qarsherskiyans in London, Ohio. A bunch of us get like North African, native. It depends on the family. And you could say the same about Melangen. Report on it. Even the owl is telling me I should go. Did you guys hear a story and report on this Qarsherskiyan woman? And she was a Qarsherskiyan Jew, but she was like a conservative Jewess, and she had like something on her head that looked like a hijab and stuff, and she had a Qarsherskiyan flag, which has the Ajami script from West Africa, which is based off of Arabic, so it looks like Arabic. So someone just saw her, and what they see is a girl with a head covering and a flag that has Arabic on it. And they called her a Muslim terrorist, and they like punched her and stuff, and they kicked her to fight her. They beat her. That's terrible. That's how terrible racism is. That's why we need to stick up for one another. And if we have members of our community, I won't say what kind of people, because I'll get canceled, but certain people some people who might be vulnerable to be targeted and harassed. I'm not saying all women, I'm just saying some women. If you know what kind of person your relatives are, not only women and not all women, I'm not saying what kind of person, but some people who are more vulnerable, we need to arm them, pepper spray, tasers, teach them boxing and self-defense, martial arts and stuff, and just teach them street smarts. And we also need to be there for one another. And, that's what we're supposed to do. We're there. We support one another. We have to try and create a circular economy. You know how the anti-Semitic people, they hate the Jews because the Jews are so successful? A lot of them have so much money and lots of really good positions in society. It's true. There's a lot of Jews in powerful positions. And the anti-Semitic folks hate that. But the reason why isn't because there's a global Jewish conspiracy for global takeover. That might be true of Zionism, but that's not the same thing as Judaism. There's just overlap with that. But the reason Jews are so successful, one of them is that they have a circular economy. They support one another. That's what people like me, and I'm not even the person who came up with this, I'm not the first to say this, but I'm going to tell you, the Qarsherskiyan community needs this. We're supposed to support one another. We should have a circular economy. Once we do that, we'll be unstoppable. We should teach that to all our allies too. We should teach all the African descendants, all the Solon people, all the Black American, teach all the indigenous American how to have a circular economy. That's very important. I might get silenced for saying this. Let me remind y'all that I'm not suicidal or anything. Once the Qarsherskiyan community has a circular economy, we will be unstoppable and we will break the chains of oppression. Gentrification won't be a problem and we'll be successful just like so many Jews here are in the USA are. So, maybe next there will be anti-Qarsherskiyanic peoples claiming that the Qarsherskiyans control the world and have space lasers and started wildfires. I don't know, I'm just saying. And I know someone is going to clip me saying some of this stuff and repost it out of context to make it look like I'm hating the Jews, when I'm literally mocking people who hate Jews. But, yeah. And there's going to be like that one Salafi person from Saudi Arabia who's going to message me and be like, if you're a Muslim, why are you defending Jews? Because they don't know the difference between Israeli Zionists, like Kahanism specifically, and literally all the Jews in the world. It's not the same thing. I don't hate Jews. I support Jews. I want to defend them against anti-Semitism. Does that mean that I'm pro-Israel? No, absolutely not. Free Palestine. And I'm not just saying free Palestine. Some people think that I'm pro-Palestine to look good. In October 2023, people accused me of being a Hamas terrorist and being the one who made a threat that some white kid made to Woodside High School in Newport News, Virginia. The staff wanted me to attend school online for a few months because it wasn't safe for me to go there in person. People kept threatening to beat me up. I'll have to do a video just about that sometime. The kid, within 24 hours, they found out who did it. He went to juvie. He was expelled permanently. But me, I graduated from Woodside High School later in June 2024. Not even held back 1 year. But there's still a few people who claim that I made the threats to Woodside and that I'm a Hamas terrorist. I went through so much crap, and I'm going to go through more crap because I don't put patriotism over humanity. I value the lives of Palestinian people more than what the US government says. And as a Qarsherskiyan person, I have to say, standing up for your rights and criticizing the actions of politicians is not anti-American. Criticizing the wrongdoings of a tyrannical government is the most American thing in the whole entire world. Boston Tea Party type stuff, you know what I'm saying? Someone is watching my live stream and sending me messages on Instagram. And I'm getting the Instagram notifications. I don't know why they won't just chat in the YouTube live stream comment section, which I can't see right now. It's mainly just someone speaking in French, saying stuff I don't understand because I don't speak French. Earlier they were harassing me and I banned them, and then they came back and they're saying more stuff, but I don't know what they're saying now. Earlier they were speaking in English and harassing me. But, yeah, so something that I will tell you guys, though. What was I? Circular economy, not anti-Semitic. Oh, yeah. So I went through a lot of crap supporting Palestine, and I'll continue to do so. This doesn't reflect the views of the whole entire Qarsherskiyan community. This is my personal view. Our community is not a religious or political organization. There are people of many different faiths, many different ideologies, and with many different political views across the USA and Canada, and some living abroad outside our homeland, you know, migrants to other countries and expats, all different kinds of Qarsherskiyan people now around the world, you know, folks in diaspora, and they don't all think the same or believe the same. But what I can tell you is more than half of the Qarsherskiyan people living in the USA and Canada, which is where the vast majority, if not all of us live, more than half of us seem to be pro-Palestine very staunchly, and less than a fourth, or at least less than a third of us, seem to support Israel at all, even remotely. So, we don't all think the same. We're not a political organization. We're not a religious organization. Our community is bonded over heritage and identity. It's an ethnic community, not a racial community. A lot of us say that race is a social construct. There's some of us claiming they can't see color, and that's a controversial thing in our community. I say I do see color, but that doesn't mean that anyone's superior or inferior based on their color. It's actually beautiful that people come in so many different shapes and sizes and colors and whatnot. I think it's cool. I study that stuff. I want to know where my ancestors came from and who they were. I think people shouldn't focus on the differences, but if you do so in a way that's admiring the differences and interested in them in an appropriate way, not in a disrespectful or hateful manner, but just learning about different people in the world and how they are and the way they live, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know. I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all. I see someone and I can just see that, oh, there's a white person with blonde hair and blue eyes. Oh, there's a black person. But I don't think, oh, there's a white person. He's probably part of the Klan. Or, oh, there's a black person. He's going to do this and that. I don't think that way. I just think like, this guy, he has on these shoes. He's a white dude or he's a black dude. He's got on this shirt and stuff. It's just something I notice, just like you notice what clothes someone's wearing. But I judge people based on their moral character and what kind of person they are, and my own personal beliefs and values, which I don't need to talk about here, because even though I'm not a representative for the Qarsherskiyan community, people keep trying to force this down my throat and keep trying to tell me that I am one. People who aren't even part of our community. It's really only people from outside our community who keep claiming that I'm a leader of the whole community, or that I'm an official spokesperson, or that I created the community, you know, as if I went back hundreds of years ago to create the community, and then back to 1991, still decades ago, before I was born, in a time machine and coined a term. Like, obviously, you know, that's not the case. But I'll say, this has been my live stream. At some points, it said as much as 4 people were watching at a time. Right now, it says 0 people are watching. That's pretty impressive. Usually I post a video and it takes 24 hours for the view count to stop going up. And it stops at as much as like 1,000 views sometimes if I'm lucky. But this is pretty well for a live stream. To get 4 people watching a live at once on a small channel that I haven't had that long, that I haven't posted very frequently on until so recently, I think that's pretty good. I'll take that. I'm satisfied. We're nearly 2 hours into the live stream now. My phone battery went from 98% to 41%. I have walked about 6 to 7 miles since I started this live stream. I am feeling really good right now. I'm very happy to be here living a salt life down in the deep southern Mezoravand, the homeland of the Qarsherskiyan people. Let's talk about some more misconceptions that some people have on the internet. Just as we can use the internet to document our community and get misinformation. See, these people got me all mixed up myself. Fruity in Ohio, skibbity rays. So, just as we can use the internet to document our community and stuff and post about it, other people can use it to intentionally or unintentionally spread misinformation that can even harm our community. And so I feel, as a person who makes a lot of videos in our community, that gets a lot of attention than many other content creators in our community, I should try and clear up some of the misconceptions that just a few people have said. It's not like something widely believed, but there's a few people who seem to have some misconceptions sometimes. I run into them rarely, but they're there. They exist. There's not many people, but there's a few people who believe certain misconceptions. And I'm going to try and clear these misconceptions up. So one thing, nobody claims the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community is an ancient ethnicity that comes from some ancient society. We have ancestors from ancient societies, like all living people on Earth do. Like, nobody magically appeared in modern times. Everyone has ancestors who have ancestors, and you can go back to ancient times. That's what we claim. We have ancestors who lived in ancient times. You can track them and find them through DNA, sometimes genealogy. I wouldn't rely on genealogy to go back to ancient times, because once you go back a few centuries, the records get really hazy and hard to confirm. But we have ancestors who lived in ancient times, right? But they were all over the world because we're a mixed race. So we have black, white, and Native ancestors. If you go back to ancient times, black, white, and Native American people weren't all living in the same town together back then. At least that's what we're taught in our modern history, as far as we know right now, as at the time of making this live stream, right? So, yeah, if we're multiracial, then we do have ancient ancestors that lived on different continents. But there's a few people online, mainly the same people who harass me and some other community members, and have tried to dehumanize us and said racial slurs to us, claimed we're in a cult for not choosing one race and embracing our mixed identity. They said, that's weird. I don't like it. You're in a cult, that means. If I don't like it and I think it's weird, it's a cult. That's how narrow-minded these people are. But there's some people who keep repeating this misconception over and over, claiming that, quote, the Qarsherskiyan community claims that they are an ancient society that is scattered around the world across many different continents. But really, it's like a mixed-race community that formed in colonial North America due to interracial marriages and relationship. And our Qarsherskiyan identity, there's different subgroups, and it varies from family to family, but it's all about preserving our mixed heritage. You know, we don't have to identify as just one thing. We're mixed. We have multiple things in our blood, and we preserve the heritage and traditions from all our ancestors of all different backgrounds. And I think that's a beautiful thing that we should all aspire to do, to the best of our ability. That's what most Qarsherskiyan folks will all agree with, right? But there's been people who misunderstand when we talk about DNA testing to find our ancient lineages, when trying to talk about in southern Rhode Island, are considering themselves Qarsherskiyan and self-identifying as Qarsherskiyan, and they are from the Narragansett tribe. Ooh, I'm gonna put my hands in my pocket, and I gotta start heading back home. Okay. From Newfoundland to Florida and inland to the Ozark, Wichita, messing with our community. Did a camera about a year ago. Their Discord, if you knew it to look for, but just like me, they were 30% black, and then the rest of them was tracing if that might have been noise or Malagasy from Madagascar. Because a bunch of Malagasy folks was brought to colonial Virginia, and a lot of the Malagasy people in the USA left trace amounts of genetic input in the Qarsherskiyan community. And some families, it is very much there, and they do have some very notable Malagasy ancestry. And there was one lad who had a story about having food, traditions, and words from the Malagasy language, all from Madagascar, and their family. But we don't know, we couldn't verify it. It's just they have these traditions. The traditions are, and the words they use are definitely from Madagascar. And them and their relatives kept saying this was passed down to us from generations. In modern times, we found out it's from Madagascar. They showed their DNA test, family of like